Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley. And today we're going to be talking about how this work has changed us, because recently we're in a student enrollment call and somebody asked, like, oh, could the coaches explain, how this work, how joining MSU has changed their life? And obviously we all could speak so deeply about, I could even just speak for hours on just this last month, let alone the last 3 years and how it shifted our lives. And Ellie and I have been kind of going back and looking at old podcasts, and it's just really wild to look back on that version of you and see now, like, oh wow, I've changed a lot, and it's for the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was redoing my website yesterday, and I was just going back to like the first 5 podcasts that we ever recorded 3 years ago, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like getting to witness, the thing about me and Danny have been doing this podcast since the beginning. And so we've basically documented our entire journey through this podcast, and just watching those videos, I'm like, oh my God, like you can just feel how much younger we were. And I don't mean by age. I literally mean like inner children. Like you can feel, I'll just speak for myself. I could feel where I was at that time. And, it was of course a very exciting time, a very exciting chapter in my life, where I stepped into, becoming a coach and meeting all these incredible people in my life. And it's been quite the road. And 3 years now, and we get to do these student enrollment meetings with all these new people who, are hearing the teachings and who are coming and they want to enroll at Master Self University, and just getting to witness them too, where we were 3 years ago, of just like this excitement of this, like, this is something that's calling me. And, just reflecting back and being very nostalgic of that moment in time where, I first heard Rachel on a podcast, and I just knew that this was going to be where I was going to go. I didn't know why I felt that way, but I knew that this was something so deep inside of me. And to know that when you get out of your mind and you allow your heart and your soul to lead you, it will bring you on a whole different timeline. And yeah, just very, very nostalgic of what we've gone through and where we were and where we are now. And it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool to be in. It's like being the other side of the bar, right? It's like, now I'm not the one, I'm not the one having to do kind of like the work. I'm the one reaping the kind of like rewards when I worked in bars for a number of years, and I still work in a bar, but when you leave that industry and then get to go sit in a restaurant and enjoy the other side, that's kind of like what it feels like for me, where I'm having this weird experience. I'm like, man, I remember being there. I remember doing that, sat on the call with Rachel, nervous about, what is this? What's going to happen? Because one of the really interesting things is I haven't, and I'm not saying there isn't ever, but I haven't found anything close to what Masters of Self University is anywhere else. I just have not found it. Obviously for good reason, right? I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I hope that there are many organizations that are popping up around the world like this, because that means that there's more people doing this level of work, and that's exactly what we want. But just in my journey, I didn't come across anything quite like this. And so then trying to allow people to understand what it is when they've never fully experienced it and there isn't anything else like this, that is a task in itself. And I remember like being on this call, and I had no real clue what it was that I was signing up for, other than the fact that there was this very, very deep part of me that was like, I want to do this. I don't even know what it is, but I'm this part of me is just going, yes, yes, yes. And I don't have the money and I don't know how I'm going to afford this, but I'm still here and I want to do this. And I don't even fully understand what it is. And the truth is, you won't understand what this journey is, this path of awakening, until you're actually on it. You won't fully understand it. And there's many layers which I still don't fully understand, as we get higher into what Rachel's teaching. Of course, we don't understand. But it's arriving at that place within ourselves of being like, oh, I don't know what this is, but I trust the feeling that I have of my soul that's saying yes, and I'm willing to go all in and follow that part of me. And it's so cool now being in these calls and seeing people in the exact same place I was 3 years ago who are following something. Most of them have seen these videos of Ellie on TikTok, and they're like, something about this, like this lady, this woman is speaking truth, and I want to learn. And whatever I'm being given right now in the world to try and resolve or fix or whatever's out there to help me, it's not quite cutting it. The therapy, the retreats, the plant medicine journeys, they're all beautiful things in their own capacity, but it's not actually teaching me how to elevate my consciousness and heal on the deepest level. And it's so wild to be what feels like, sat at the table instead of the one behind the bar.
Yeah, and I think that, I think before anyone starts anything, you have some kind of expectation, or you think that you fully understand what it's going to be. And with something like this, right? When you're walking into something that isn't tangible, it's not like, we're ushering you into a carpenter school and it's like these are the tools you'll use and this is what you're going to build and we have the exact precise step to do this. It's not that. And so it is a beautiful leap of faith to go into this because you're following something bigger, something deeper inside of you. And like, I remember when, I was in the consultation 3 years ago too, I just knew that I was going to make it work. Like, it wasn't this like, oh, I'll think about it. It was like, no, this is a calling. And I've always felt I've had like just very handful major moments in my life where I knew that this is what I was gonna do. Like when I quit my 9 to 5 to like go reach for the stars and like become an actress. Like I knew I was gonna make it work. I didn't know what it was gonna look like. I didn't know what it was gonna entail, but I was gonna do it. And MSU was the same thing of just go. Just go. And when you go, think about energetically what you're doing. You're saying yes to the dress and you're saying yes to the universe and you're saying yes, this is what I want. And when you do that and there are no blocks blocking you from that, I mean, you'll just start flowing. And then it's strap in because this is going to be the ride of your life. And in those meetings, everyone, they ask us like, what was your experience like? There's nothing that we can ever say that will make you go, oh yeah, I feel that. You have to experience it. You have to experience what this path is because it's truly there. Nobody can explain to you what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool part of hosting this podcast with Ellie is during that first kind of year, we were interviewing all the different coaches that came through about their experience. And it was always the same story. It was always, I was listening to a podcast, I heard Rachel, and there was something about, they couldn't put their finger on what it was that was being said, but they just felt something very deep. Mm-hmm. And that's what this path is about. Like there's no amount of words or images or drawings that can encapsulate the feeling that you get when you're living your life from the place of your soul. When you start to feel that thing that's deeper than whatever's on the surface, that's when we're starting to, get out of that third dimensional reality. And I mean, we were just talking about this with when we adopt a dog. It's about, it's not just about the dog. It's like, is there a soul connection there? And when there is, like, that's just so much deeper than anything else. And that's what this path's about. It's about aligning with your soul and allowing that part of you to integrate and to become the being that you're meant to be.
Yeah. And how many of us sabotage that with our minds? And recently somebody booked a shadow blueprint session with me. For those of you guys who don't know what that is, you can book a one-off, um, basically healing session with any of us coaches. And I was moving this person through it, and we went to some really beautiful places. And when this person came out of it, the first thing this person said was, "Man, it's about time I connected. It was about time that happened." Right. And it was such a beautiful session. And then within 30 seconds after he said that, this person goes, "Yeah, but what if I don't know if it's real?" And I was like, wow, that's how fast the mind comes and tries to sabotage you. That you can't trust what you just experienced. You can't trust what just opened for you. That you start running programs immediately. And when you have given so much power to your mind and you still won't allow yourself to discern what is my mind and what is my heart, the mind, of course, is going to win because that's been the ruler of your entire existence. And I saw and witnessed in real time how quickly the mind sabotaged him moving forward to go on the timeline that he is being asked to go on. Because this
Right.
person and I, it's not the first time we've met. We've met several times now. And it's everything is calling this person to go on this path. And this person keeps allowing the mind to come and just veer him, veer him, veer him, veer him. And then that's what he's going to choose. And then you're not opening up to and trusting that what is in front of you is the green light. And then we revert back and then we choose to be in what we've been in for so long. And what we've been in for so long is what they have safety in, even if it's suffering. And that to me is the saddest part, because you have this lifetime to choose so much bigger. And then you let your mind tell you to stay small and tell you that everything's fake and nothing is real and da da da. And it's like, how's that going for you? Because that's why you're in this position in the first place. And yet, so many of us keep choosing that over and over and over again. And so, I just tip my hat off to everybody who can see the mind running and still choose to follow their hearts, because that single decision right there will alter the course of your life, period.
Yeah, well, I remember when I had my initial consultation with Rachel Fiori, and this was back when we were doing the coaching certification, which that's 15K, which is a significant investment for a 6-month program. And
Worth it. So it should be like 50, the
1,000
100,000. Like,
million cajillion,
yeah,
like,
so
yeah,
good.
absolutely priceless doing
So
that
good.
program. And what we're charging now is just a fraction of that. Like
Not even like a
and it's,
sliver.
yeah, and
Yeah.
for a whole year, but that's by the by. Um, and I remember the reason I bring that up is because I remember right after the call, I'd agreed to move forward, and just all of a sudden, all these programs just started to run, of like, oh my god, what did I just sign up for? I don't even know what this is. Like, what am I doing? Am I going crazy? Is this ridiculous? I didn't even have enough money. Like, how am I going to afford this? And it's just this deeper part of me. It was like, yeah, it's okay that all that's there. Remember
Yeah.
that feeling that you had that brought you to this space. And it's really easy, back to what you were saying earlier about sabotage, is when we do, okay, we start to, put off heart forward and live from that place. All the self-sabotage, all the programs of fear, and uh, the parts of us that want to keep ourselves safe, because they know that if we're going to grow and expand and evolve, that we have to start to get a little uncomfortable, and dissolve some of the safety mechanisms that we've created to literally stop us from feeling and stop us from growing, and keep ourselves somewhat contained. And that can be scary, but that's why obviously we guide you through the process of just seeing that they're just it's just energetic programs.
Yeah.
That's it. They're just energies. That's just fear. For whatever reason, we have to find out, okay, why is it there? You find out why this energy is being activated, and then you just heal it. And then
Mhm.
you realize, oh man, like, I have been letting my whole life, and this can be true for anywhere in your life, I have been letting my whole life be dictated by these energetic programs which aren't even actual truth. Now, maybe when they were created, there was a certain amount of fear that was real, but now I'm just reenacting these patterns, these programs, and I'm just doing it, and it's just limiting myself. And I came here to like do something far greater and beyond what it is that I'm currently doing with my life. Why am I wasting my time limiting myself when I could be dissolving these blocks? I could be healing and really elevating my consciousness and becoming like the divine soul that I came here to be. I mean, that's the path that we're all here to do. Now, what that looks like and our unique gifts is obviously different for everyone. But when you have that realization that, oh, these are just energies that are quote unquote blocking me, I can just heal them. That's it. I can just dissolve them. I can elevate my consciousness beyond them. And then I'm free to do what it is that I came here to do.
Yeah, you're being gifted the keys to freedom, literally. And then you let all of these energies take over, and then you throw the keys on the floor and you walk away, and then you go back to what you've been like. Actually, that's insanity if you really think about that. If you take a moment, everybody, that's insanity. That's crazy that you're choosing to be. It's like it's like this, okay? You're literally sinking in like quicksand, okay? And someone goes, "Here's a log. Here's a stick. I'm gonna pull you out." And then you go, "Nah, I'm good. I'll just drown and die in this quicksand." It's actual insanity. And no matter what you say to these people, it's their choice, right? Everyone has free will choice. You can never make anybody do anything. What you can do is go, "Man, I see ya," because I can't stand here as you drown in your quicksand because I gotta go. And yeah, I think that's been a very, very interesting experience for me to witness, because definitely, that used to be someone I've made decisions where I've definitely let my mind lead and my heart not, right? But when it's this big, when it has to do with your emotional beingness and your mental state and your the way you live your life, yeah, it's just sad. It's just sad.
Yeah. And that's not to say, to impulsively jump at everything. That's not
Right.
at all what we're talking about. If anyone studies astrology, but Ellie has a lot of Aries in her chart. And I have an Aries moon, a little bit of Aries in there as well. And that energy is very fiery, very impulsive. And if that's not aligned with your heart, and we're not just saying,
Right.
oh, just do the first thing, always just say yes. Like, oh, I always say yes to everything. No, 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 no. That's not at all what we're saying. There's a big difference between, feeling something or seeing something you might want to do and then immediately impulsively just doing it versus then dropping in and feeling, okay, where is this deep drive? Is it a deep drive and desire that's coming from a very deep place? And how do I feel the difference between what is my soul's calling versus what is my mind?
Hmm.
And obviously the trick is like to really understand what that means is you got to do the work. You got to do the work. If you're not there, if you're already there, great, you'll have no problem, living that way. But if you haven't, you've got to do the work. And then, but the trick is obviously then your programs, the fear, whatever's there, that can sabotage you, and leave you kind of like stuck in those loops and patterns. And then the question just comes to, when is enough enough? When are you going to actually answer your soul's calling? When are you actually going to start to listen and follow the guidance of your soul? As Rachel always says, the number one guide in this life is your own soul. It's not me. It's not some guru. It's not some man in the sky. It's your soul. Your soul is your guide. And you must learn, we all must learn to feel what that means. What is the language of my soul? How does it speak to me? What does it feel like? And when we can live from that place, that's where our liberation lies.
Yeah. And for some people who, get the chance, you may get another chance. Your life may get so much rougher that you decide to pick up the call and go for it, right? But, the thing about the human experience here is that we all have free will choice, right? And what we don't remember when we come here is how many lifetimes have we made the same choice over and over and over again. And, I say this in a lot of the student enrollment meetings that we have, is like, this incarnation is way too big for us to fuck it up and for us to choose what we've always chosen. And so, to anybody out there that's like really hears this and you feel that, follow that. Like, truly, why not? Why not follow that when you've always done the other thing? Like, there's been a lot that I've learned in my life, in this experience, in this human experience. I grew up really not I was never, and I'm sure Danny you can relate to this, but like, it's not like I had parents who were always like encouraging me to go for it and like encouraging me to like take the risk or encouraging me to follow my heart. I've never been in fact, it's always been the opposite. It's always been, you shouldn't do that because of this, and like, that's too scary and that's too big and you should stay close to home. And it was always like trying to make me small and safe and all of these things, and don't leave the comfort zone. That's I my parents were never like that. They were always, stay in the comfort zone, don't break the
Mm.
box, stay in the box, don't break the rules, like, follow the rules. It was always like that. And so a part of what I came here to overcome is, no, that's not who I am and what I'm going to choose. And every single time in my life that I have gone against the grain, that I have gone against what I've been raised to become, extraordinary things have happened in my life. And I just felt the momentum of what it feels like to actually live when you follow that, instead of all the programming, the conditioning, and all the programs that we've absorbed, from our caregivers, of stay small and be quiet and don't do this and don't do that. And it's like, all of us have been raised in a world where they condition us to follow our minds, which is why we're all fucked up. And now you're getting the chance to allow your heart to lead you. Like, holy shit, what could your life be if you choose that? Like, that excites me 10 times more than, where my mind was. I remember when so during my Saturn return, for those of you guys who don't know, from like basically 28 to 31, you experience something called Saturn return, where you're being asked, where are you not showing up responsible? Where are you not disciplined? Where are you not doing the things that you need to be doing for yourself, basically? And a lot of people fall into depression. A lot of people have like crazy crises and they flip their lives upside down. And for me, it was this, I'm so sick of how mentally and emotionally fucked up I am, that I started to listen to like the little things of like, start meditation and like start journaling, right? And I started, like, these people started coming into my life that was showing me that like there was like happiness could be achieved in this life. And they were all like they were spiritual people, but I would still run all these programs of like, it's not for me, and like, that's too woo woo and all of these things. And then probably after my Saturn return, I got hit with like the rock bottom of the rock bottoms. And then I knew, now it's time. Like, I don't have any choice anymore. Like, I can't go on like this. And even though I didn't have a lot of money, I was like, I'm going to invest in myself, which I had never really done in terms of like my well-being, right? I invested in myself in terms of like acting classes and things like that, but I never did anything for my well-being. And then I just put in money and started doing inner child work. And that's when everything started to shift. And that's when I started to, that was my first awakening. And so if I didn't follow that, right? If I didn't get pushed to the edge, I would probably still be super hopped up on antidepressants, probably crying somewhere in LA, trying to be a star in Hollywood, and just completely losing myself and disconnecting even farther and farther and farther, right? Because that timeline does exist where we don't ever follow our hearts and we keep choosing our minds. All those timelines exist. And I think the question that we should all ask ourselves is, what if we do take that leap? And what if we do follow what's calling us deep within? What would happen? What if, like, let that excite you? Because that excites me even talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the deepest callings I always had since a kid was to live in America. I actually really wanted to go to American high school. That was my dream. You know
Why?
why? Well, one of the main reasons. Okay, so this is a beautiful that's a beautiful question now, because we can talk about
Okay.
that. I can feel now there was a deep part of me that call it my soul, my guides, that were guiding me to need to come live here, to be here right now, to be part of, this organization growing, and to be close to, to be able to be with you, Ellie, and to be close to Rachel and the other members of this organization. Like, it's very clear to me, this is why I came here. This is my life's purpose, my life mission, to be part of this. To be really part of this like global awakening. It's absolutely like magnificent when I really think back to it, because I remember being a young child and like just for anyone who doesn't know, I grew up in the UK, but my mum was American, so we used to come to the US a lot. Come over here and I just feel great. There was something about this place that I just loved. But then being in the UK, I would watch a lot of American TV. And so I believe it was this deep part of me that was like, hey, like, come out to the US. But then I was watching all the American TV programs, and then that was being filtered through that, like, that program and conditioning of like American high school being so cool, and there's all, girls, and it's all about that, right? Which when you're a kid, well, at least for me, that was all I was interested in. And so this deeper part of me was just being filtered through all of the conditioning and collective programming that I was inhaling, as a child watching Nickelodeon, and then into all the TV channels like American TV, and so that got like deeply ingrained. And I did coming out to the US to study. I did a year abroad through my university, and even that like I could tell like that was all extremely guided. And when I found out, like, I like didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, and I was just going like step to step, and I was like, I'm going to do geography at this university. And just so happens the university that I went to, the geography department, they did a year study abroad scheme in the US. So I think I look back now and I'm like, that's crazy that existed, because I don't know anyone else that like had that opportunity, that offer to do that. And so this deep part of me was finding like, yes, go do that. Like, that's something you have to do. And actually remembering back to that time now, I forgot about this. Some of the programs that nearly made me not go were the fact that I'd gone to university and I had a bunch of friends, and they were all going to graduate a different year to me. And that meant when I would have had to come back into my final year of uni, I would have been the only one. Everyone else, all of my friends, everyone I knew at the university would have graduated. And so there was this part of me that was like, oh no, because then all of this wounding of not having any friends and being alone and not being accepted and having to then try and fit into a new group of people, like that would have all been there. And I had to just, feeling of like, no, like there's a deeper part of me which is calling me to go. I've always dreamed about this. And obviously the dream ended up throughout the events that happened that ended up meant that I came and lived out here, and now I really feel like I'm living the real dream of my soul, which is to be part of this deeper mission. But to get there, I had to say yes to it. And then I had to move out here on my own, which was another like thing of which you speak of. Like, obviously there's a lot of fear, but there's a big part of me that's just like, just go and just figure it out, say yes. So when we follow those parts, like, our dreams come true.
Yeah, and what an exciting way to live. I remember I was at this precipice in my life a few years ago where I moved out of California and I moved back to New York, and I could tell that I was done with New York City, and then I moved upstate New York and I didn't know where I was going to go after upstate New York. And I decided not to stress about it. And then MSU came into my life, and then it was this automatic calling of go to San Diego. And I'm like, go back to California? Are you kidding me? I just moved across country. My dog, bless my dog, she has literally been back and forth across country like at least 4 times with me, because I'm just like, I just go. And I just remember being like, I gotta go to San Diego. And everyone in my family was like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I'm going, and I'm going to take the risk. And it was a whole new city and it was a whole new experience, but I went, and I've been here now for 2 years. And it's those moments where it's unexplainable. It's just like, you just move with the tides, you just move with it. And there's going to be stuff that's obviously going to come up when you do. And then your job is to go, all right, let me be with everything that's going to get triggered when you do take these leaps of faith. But holy shit, like, everything that I've done when I follow that, the amount of growth and the amount of lessons and the elevation that I've experienced has been like monumental. And I just want to live my life like that for the rest of my days, in just allowing that feeling. And it's not a program, that feeling that I'm talking about. It's this, holy shit, there are no words. I am shaking. I am vibrating. Everything in me is going, hell yeah. And that's the northern star. Northern star. I always say northern star. Is it northern light? Northern
North
light.
Star.
North star. Thank you very much. The north star that's guiding me and lighting it up. And so, I always just it's one of my favorite traits in somebody. I had this one client. I don't know if she's going to listen to this podcast, but I met with her in a consultation, and she was like, "I'm going to do this. Work with you one on one." And literally within a few days, she was signed up and ready to go. And I remember always looking at her and being like, I love that about you. You just do it. You just go for it. And then she ended up being certified as a coach. She just went for it. And every time I see her, I'm always like, I wish that all people could live that way. Just letting that fire in your body erupt, and just letting that ignite is just the best way to live. Best way to live. Just flow.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
much more fun to live from that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, to flow with the universe, to be, in surrender and in harmony. And I remember when we first moved to San Diego, like a couple of years ago, there was a lot that came up moving out here, which I'm sure we've spoke about on this podcast before. But there was a lot that came up, and a lot of doubt. Like, is this the right place? I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. In 2015, I moved to Maui, and what I did was just started projecting all of my stuff, like internally, that I was feeling onto that place. And this is something that we do, and it happened here in San Diego. But because of this work that I did, or the work that we do, I was able to recognize that it wasn't coming from this place of like my deep soul saying, this isn't where you're supposed to be. I always felt, when I was in Maui, I had no idea. It was just straight up projection. And I ended up leaving after a year. I'm not saying that was wrong, but that was my experience. But now in San Diego, when I'm like not truly like, oh, this is the place to be, this is where I've already dreamed about living, all this stuff would kind of come up. But I could feel that underneath there was this part of me that was like, this might not be your idea of heaven, but you're supposed to be here. And I haven't been connected to that part of me consciously throughout my life. Now, when I look back in reflection, there are moments that I felt like that. Like, I can see some of the places that I went to, some of the things that I did. I didn't know it at the time, but I was supposed to be there, and I was supposed to have those experiences. But I wasn't aware of it. And what's changed a lot now from doing this work is I now have more of the awareness of, in the moment, okay, this that I feel right here, all of this stuff, what is that? Okay, these are the programs. This is my mind. And this feeling under here, what is that? Okay, this is my soul that says, you're exactly where you need to be. Don't leave. Like, that would be foolish. It's your programs that want to pull you and take you into some other place. And over the course of the last 2 years of living here, I feel so much more connected to the part of me, my deeper soul, that like is guiding me, that's saying, no, like, this is where you're supposed to be. And one of the things that I trust now that I didn't, have at all, this awareness or connection years ago, is that if something isn't right, I'll know. So it's not that I'm walking around it every day and I'm like, oh, this is it, I'm truly connected. I'm not at that level. But I know that if something isn't right, that I will know, that I'll have the feeling will come in, like that my guidance will go, hey, you're slightly off track here. You're not supposed to be in this place. You're not supposed to be like, go in and do the work and address why you're here. I really feel that part of me that gives that guidance. And I feel that it's always been there and I've always listened to it. I just didn't know that that was guidance throughout my whole life. I didn't know that what I was feeling, the pushes forward, the nudges, the go to America, that was my internal guidance. I didn't realize that was my soul speaking to me. I wasn't aware, I was a lower level of consciousness, but it was still happening. I just wasn't aware of it.
Yeah. And this is something that I made a video about this recently, but I think that we have this expectation that when our soul speaks to us, it's going to come in a different voice. It's going to be loud. It's going to be, boisterous, all of these things. And what it actually is it's very subtle, and it's always in your voice, and it's almost like a whisper. And when you're not in tune with it, you'll brush it off and you'll dismiss it and you'll push it away and you'll reject it. But in that moment when it's given, you have literally a millisecond of going straight into your mind or following that guidance. And it's in those moments, in that one particle of time, when you follow that guidance, you'll start to see like, oh, guidance comes in like this. I remember Fiori telling me this one time. So I was like, I always thought it was gonna like come in like another alien, like a Palladian was gonna come and like tell me like this is what. She's like, no, it's always a whisper. She's like, you'll miss it if you're not in tune. And that's what I really feel is the guidance, right? And then there's obviously too the chills and the shaking and the oh my god, right? There's that. But when we follow that and we keep continuing to follow that, that's when the magic really happens. And I'll tell this story really quickly. So I make TikTok videos and I always post at night. Okay. And I was in the shower the last week, and I was around the shower around like 7 a.m. And as I'm washing my hair, all I hear is post that TikTok video that you drafted yesterday right now. Right. And I heard it, and immediately my mind went, no, don't post it now because you post it at night and like nobody's gonna see your video and blah, blah, all that stuff, right? And I got out of that shower, I was like, shut the fuck up, dude. I was like, I'm gonna listen to that. And so I posted it with no attachment to what it meant or why I was being guided to do that. And then probably when I checked my email like an hour later, someone had booked a session with me. And when I went into the session, this person basically said to me after the session was over, I was losing it this morning. I wasn't good. And I pulled up to the gym and I opened up my phone, and your video was the first video that popped up for me. And I knew immediately that you were speaking to me. It was a message for me. And I started freaking out. I was like, that's it. Like, I had to post that video at that time for you to book this session with me, for us to do this and be in this right now here together. And that was just so expansive and eye-opening for me. And how many times do we not listen to that subtle whisper that comes in, which is your soul, which is your guidance?
A lot is the answer.
Yes. Yeah.
Not for everyone,
Yeah.
obviously. The more elevated, evolved beings that are out there are really
Mhm.
listening to that for sure. But yeah, and I've noticed for me, one of the things that really disconnects me from that guidance is the little entitled child that I've been really working on healing all year, but especially within this last, I would say, like 6 months. And I'm really noticing now, when I allow that energy to dictate my life. I actually just recorded on my own personal blog that I do on YouTube. I've not posted it yet, but a whole kind of story about this, about how when we listen to our heart and our guidance, the abundance flows in. And when we allow the entitled child to rule and run our life, we close ourselves off because we're running the program, close ourselves off. And this beautiful lesson came through in the store, in this beautiful like experience I had of wanting to buy a new pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of running the programs of immediately buying whatever it is that I wanted, to check in with myself and wait a little bit of time. And if you're interested in hearing that, just check out my YouTube, Danny F. Morley. And yeah, you can go a little deeper into that. But when we choose to listen to our heart, like, that's where the abundance is.
Yes.
And yes, in the third dimensional reality, right? Abundance, there's a lot of financial abundance in running those programs. Honestly, it was I feel like the 3D is obviously very materialistic, and in that reality you can just take from everyone and not give a crap. But where we're heading in the new earth, you can't run those programs. First off, energetically, you're not going to be at that vibration to live and exist in that frequency. And secondly, when you do, like, abundance flows through in all manner of different ways. It's not just financial, but it might be financial among the many. And so when we choose to not run the programs, I found I can actually hear, because I'm not My mind isn't full with this little child that doesn't
Mhm.
want to listen, that just wants what it wants. When I'm able to get out of that energy and actually connect, then I can hear my guidance far, far more easily than when I allow those programs to run.
Yeah. And, when you follow the guidance, when you follow the whisper, you're connected, which means you're connected to the cosmos, which means you're connected to the universe, which means you're connected to the everything, that all that is. And then we go into the disconnection by following our minds. Guys, please make sure you laugh at that. Okay? Because that's redonkulous that we do that. And I really hope that this hits some of you, for those of you who are at these pivotal moments in your life right now, or when you're hearing the guidance and you're choosing not to follow it, let this really sink in and hit you. And as you move and live your life after this podcast episode, tune in. Tune in to those whispers. Tune in to the subtlety, tune into the messages, and let that be your north light, because holy shit, then you're on the ride of your life, truly. Truly.
And just to bring it back to, where we originally started at the beginning of this podcast, which is like how we've changed over the last, few years, and looking back on, the previous versions of ourselves that even recorded these podcasts, right? Just to summarize, like, what has changed for you?
I mean, such a loaded question. When I watch videos of me, previously, it's such a really young girl, who wanted more for herself. And I've definitely matured. I mean, there's much more maturing for me to do, for sure. But looking at her, and there's a lot of naivety, I think, and a lot of um, wanting to evolve and wanting to elevate and wanting to change. And I don't know how I got through most of my life being the way that I was, but I did, right? And when I watch those videos, it's the beginning of her shifting out of that. And so obviously I have a lot of love for her. And I know that I've grown and elevated in every year that goes by. And still there's so much more to go. But yeah, I think I'm proud of her, because it is a scary thing to walk into the unknown. I get it, right? But this is what we're taught. We know what to do with the fear that comes up when you walk into the unknown. And I'm just proud of her that she walked into that, and she just kept taking leap after leap after leap after leap. And, I hope in, 3 years again, when we're recording a podcast, and I'll look back on this episode and be like, oh, look at her. But yeah, I can say that, I'm proud of where I am. And yeah, I'm just glad that I'm growing up, because goddamn, I was trapped in a very young age for a long time.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when we do stick on the podcast from 3 years ago. And the interesting part as well is there's a lot of people that are coming in, and if
Mhm.
this is you, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's
Hi.
awesome. Like, hi, welcome. If this is you, because we are having like an enormous amount of growth within the organization right now, with a lot of new people coming in, and they're going back and starting the podcast from episode 1 and watching it through, which is just, fantastic. But it's very strange, for us doing it, because we feel like completely different people.
Yeah.
We look back at those people like, oh my god, like, wow, I was a very different person back then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like in this last 3 years, just grown so much. And that's all credit to obviously the community that we have, having amazing coaches to work with, having this amazing community to, share what it is we're struggling with and what we're moving through, and get guidance and support and coaching. And then obviously to have Rachel kind of leading the way,
The goat.
the goat, yeah, like leading the way of like what it means to be an enlightened being on this earth and this time. Like, oh, it's absolutely incredible. But it is a little cringy when we watch back and we're like, oh
Yeah.
man, that's us. But then all you can do is just love that version of you,
Yeah.
to judge or shame ourselves. So the way we used to show up is the opposite of what we're trying to become. So yeah, I've actually found a little bit of benefit going back and watching some of them and
Yeah.
opening my heart to myself.
Yeah. I should probably try that.
It's it's quite fun. I was watching one the other day, and Ellie was making me turn it off. I was like, "Come on,
I
man!"
was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear myself.
Yeah,
But yeah, but we honor those versions, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
100%.
So if you are one of those new people that have joined the community recently, we do have a free Discord. If you haven't made your way over there, or for anyone who's been listening for a while that hasn't gone there yet, it's just a place where we gather and share our experiences. There'll be a free link in any of the podcast apps that we use. Just look below. And that's just a place for us to share our journeys and kind of start to connect and commune with one another. I'd highly recommend it. And it's completely free. And I like it that it's not through like Facebook or Insta, because your awareness isn't being pulled into all these other places. It's like on Discord, everything you look at is MSU. You know, you don't have to look at all the ads and all that other stuff, which I like that, you know, we have that place. So, and the other thing I'd love to say is happy Thanksgiving. This will be released on Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends and to across the world.
Yeah. And for anybody out there, you know, we begin our school year, our spring semester on January 21st, 2025. If you want to learn more on how to enroll, join one of our free student enrollment meetings. You can click the link in the description below and come to a free enrollment meeting and find out what it's all about. And we'd love to see you in class. I hope you guys have a beautiful holiday. And for next time, we'll see you guys then.
Bye.
Bye.